Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third season of the Sell the Team Oakland Athletics rebuild. So, this is the year where I believe 2025 the A's would be moving to Las Vegas, but of course, we are going to be staying in Oakland here in this rebuild. And I made a couple of transactions over the remainder of last offseason and through spring training, but nothing super game changing. I think among the biggest was probably signing Sonata off the free agency pool and then trading the other international starting pitcher we signed when his asking price ultimately came down a little bit. We reacquired Matt Brash from San Diego. I believe I covered that in the last one. And acquired Joey Cantillo, some other players, but nothing super game changing, pretty much running out the same lineup that we had at the end of the last video. I decided that we would be going with James Wood as our starting left fielder this year. I was really wanting to trade him, but I ultimately decided that he's just too talented and we couldn't really get anyone worth dealing him for. And we will be also starting Yasan Dominguez in right field, so bringing in some of our prospects this season. I'm hoping that both of them will make a bit of an impact. We'll also be, of course, shaking it up with Gunnar Henderson at second base. So I feel like our lineup is just a lot more complete this season, and hopefully we can get our offense up to above average, which is where I was hoping it would be last year, along with our very good pitching. Anyways, with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into the season and check in on a monthly basis as normal. All right, well, a month into the season, we have managed to achieve most of our goals with offense and defense as well, as we are currently tied for the fifth best offense in the league. In other good news, we've also got top prospect Brady House knocking on the door. He's looking very good in AAA so far. Just hit some TCR, especially on that power side of things. He is currently at a 180 OPS plus a month into the season and is a capable third baseman. Obviously, we've got O'Neill Cruz at the position right now, but he could be a right fielder, he could be a DH, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. And right now, the biggest upside of the season has definitely been O'Neill Cruz himself, as he has been just tearing the ball apart at the plate and obviously providing his usual high value defense at third base. Austin Wells has been very good as well, hitting for a very nice slash. Gunnar Henderson's been productive, so we've been getting offense from some of our key spots, but obviously still room to improve. Yasan Dominguez and James Wood just really struggling out of the gate. Nick Prato not hitting nearly as well as I would expect, although obviously it's not like he's doing half bad. He's getting on base at a very nice clip. And Michael Ciani, unfortunately, has lost enough range that he is down to 75 center field defense, which means that there could actually be room to improve in center field, and I will be at least considering options there in the future. Edwin Arroyo still not quite fully developed at shortstop defensively, but having a nice start to the season himself. And our pitching, Andrew Painter, ironically, has been our most disappointing pitcher, but Keegan Akin, very nice first month of the season, so we'll obviously be hoping for more. And Yerlin Rodriguez, I forgot to mention this earlier, hit TCR himself. He gained a ton of control coming into the season, so looking like a true top rotation type to go with Andrew Painter for the long run. Anyways, a good first month of the season. We'll be hoping to keep it going into month number 2. In some ways, a pretty good month for us, but in other ways, not so much. James Wood continues to struggle, and the biggest bad news is Austin Wells losing some of his hitting. It looked like he was on the verge of adding some contact, and he was at 70 power, but that has gone down, and he has not been productive so far this year, which is definitely a big disappointment. Edwin Arroyo also taking a step back offensively as he lost some contact potential and some current eye, which really makes me wonder if he's going to hit his batting, which is very strange since he's been reasonably productive at the major league level since age 20, actually, I think age 19. And he also lost a tiny bit of range to go down from 75 to 70, which is definitely worrisome. But good news is Gunnar Henderson has been very productive. Yasan Dominguez has been very productive, as I mentioned. Andrew Painter had a brief injury, which costed him 5 points of stuff potential as well. Not something I'm super worried about. But I'm also really surprised his velocity hasn't improved yet very much, and I'm surprised that he hasn't continued to make gains on this season. But anyways, Matt Brash is also looking very nice, and I'm genuinely willing to consider him as a starting pitcher again, though he's obviously very useful in the high leverage relief role. And otherwise, not a lot to go over here, although one thing of note is that our team has been very poor in one-run games, I should say. Actually, not too bad, 10-8. I was expecting it to be worse, but we have lost a lot of one-run games recently, which we really shouldn't be with our high-end bullpen. Though Camilo Doval certainly has not been particularly good. Interesting that he is now viable as a starting pitcher. And yeah, the back of our bullpen hasn't quite been what I hoped it would be, but I'm sure that that will improve as the season goes on. You can see that our starters have actually been better in terms of ERA than our relievers, which I mean, it's to some extent, Yerlin Rodriguez, Andrew Painter, Hanshiro Sonata. I mean, these are really good starting pitchers, but our bullpen should definitely be more productive. Anyways, I think I'm going to check in, and I think it's actually the draft that's our next event. But otherwise, we'll keep simulating and hope we can maintain this success and a massive lead over our AL West rivals. All right, I was wrong about the date of the draft. It is actually in June, or excuse me, in July. So June has passed here, and we've had a reasonably productive month. Not too much to report here. Season's going on, and we're still doing very well. So we will check in again at the draft and see how things are going. Really, the only thing that has me particularly worried are Austin Wells and James Wood, who just continue to not produce. But with James Wood, I mean, the strikeouts are ridiculous and the BABIP is bad, so I would expect his production to bounce back pretty reasonably. But obviously, Austin Wells is a bit more of a concern, especially since he's not valuable defensively. So we will definitely be keeping an eye on him going forwards here. All right, well, we are through the first year player draft, and we picked up some interesting players in this one, though we were unfortunately unable to land most superstars. So, our first round pick was a very interesting two-way player, Boston Kellner, an older high school player, 19 years old already, but he has good potential on both sides of the ball. Very nice pitching arsenal. His velocity certainly has room to grow. From the offensive side of things, he can probably end up in the outfield, likely left field, with a decent bat. And really, I did take him actually for his two-way potential. I do think he's more likely to be a trade chip down the line, though his personality is just downright excellent. He's got leader, intelligence, a lot of good stuff going here, so that could help him develop a little bit. Our second round pick is going to be Taylor Tracy, who is more developed for his age, which is one of the biggest reasons I took him, and a decent defensive corner outfielder with decent personality as well. So he's got a decent OPS based profile, hoping he can develop towards that. Jarrett Sabol, also an older high schooler. He's catcher. I think he's more of a trade chip down the line. I don't really love him that much. And we've got Vaughn Necker, another two-way player, although he's almost certainly going to be exclusively a hitter. This is certainly the cream of the crop from this draft class. He'll likely be developed either at third base or in the corner outfield as well. Very big time bat potential, so we're going to hope he can approach that. I will set him to be a batter as soon as he gets our organization. And fifth round pick is going to be Dylan Adkins, another two-way player, although he's also going to be exclusively developed as a batter. He is less interesting, and this was really the best player left by the fifth round. He's going to be a left fielder or maybe a right fielder. Good defense, and hopefully he can improve on the bat a little bit. I don't really think he's got that big of a potential. Our sixth rounder is actually more interesting in my opinion. John Lash. He slipped much further than I expected him to. He's got a decent personality and good stuff potential, so he's certainly one to watch, though I doubt he approaches his potential due to his age and relative lack of development. But he is certainly an interesting prospect. So ultimately, just more high quantity than high quality in this draft class, and we'll just hope that some of them can develop. We have here a pretty interesting trade. Carlos Betancourt is somebody that I was looking at the beginning of the season. A very, very good relief pitcher, absolutely dominating so far this season. And unfortunately for the Chicago Cubs, out with elbow ligament reconstruction surgery. So he's going to miss the rest of the season. Although, again, with that 35 stamina and the three dominant pitches, he could even potentially become a starter one day. So really, really excellent pitcher we're going to be acquiring here for David Barrientos, a literal no-name prospect who was once an international amateur signing but has fallen off a cliff, as you can see from the scouting history. So Betancourt going to be joining our organization, returning next year from his surgery, and should be a dominant force in our bullpen. Likely to be our only major acquisition of the deadline, but a very big one to be sure. All right, we have a pretty interesting trade here with the New York Mets. I decided that MJ Melendez, because his contract gets expensive down the line, and he's not even on our major league roster this year because we just have better options, it is time to trade him. So we are going to be getting from the New York Mets Kike Hernandez to offset salary, although he could potentially factor in, but I'm more inclined, frankly, to just trade him again after we get him. The big prospect here is going to be Mike Collado, who is not part, or MJ Melendez was certainly not enough to get him by himself, but this is a big time bat prospect, the kind of guy who could be a massive on base type talent with good power to boot. So we're going to be hoping for big things from him. We're going to be sending over Jax Phillips, acquired from the Marlins in the offseason, to make this one work. But he's underdeveloped for his age, really is restricted to left field or maybe right field defensively at his best, and other than the power, just doesn't have a lot going for him. So I'm really questioning his ability to develop. So I think this is just a big win for us. And we're also going to be getting as a toss-in prospect Nick Morabito. He is a captain, good base runner, solid defensive outfielder, and decent bat overall. So solid throw-in. Kike's salary is also going to be retained to the point where it's not hardly going to damage our finances for this year. And of course, he will be a slight boost to our fan interest. But overall, very nice pickup here for us. All right, we've got a trade set up here to get Yoani Brito from the New York Yankees. Pretty solid starting pitcher overall. And this is going to be sending Kike Hernandez over. He just really doesn't have a spot on our team. And it frees up a tiny bit of salary, just $1 million, but it is, it's something. So Brito is likely going to be sent to AAA. He'll be pitching depth, but he is certainly some of our better pitching depth at this point, the kind of guy who can come up and be a solid performer in the rotation as needed. Anyways, I will be taking a look at a couple other deals, but I don't think we're going to have too much more activity at the deadline and probably no major additions. All right, well, we are making a quite interesting trade here. This is one I was not expecting to do, but ultimately I decided Arturo Escobedo, our former top prospect, his potential is dipping. He was not performing in Rookie League for 2 consecutive years. It's time to move on from him. So what could we get? Well, it came down to a couple of options, but the one that I found to be most appealing is reacquiring Hayden Dirk from the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, you will remember that Hayden Dirk was originally dealt to the Brewers to acquire our current number 2 starting pitcher, Yorlin Rodriguez, who has, of course, been truly dominant, and I genuinely do not regret this deal, even though Tristan Casas has turned out better than Austin Wells, because he's just such a dominant starting pitcher. He's had a great year to date. Ultimately, very good deal for us, but reacquiring Hayden Dirk is absolutely a good decision at this point, as his stuff has continued to climb. His control looks good. His movement's dominant. He's tearing up high A, although obviously he should be much higher in the minors or in the majors at this point. So he will be rejoining us. We'll also be acquiring starting pitching prospect Logan Henderson in this deal. He's more just a sweetener. He was easy to get, so we're getting him. Jake Walkinshaw is going back in this trade for him. Just a no-name relief prospect, older, not really anything worth noting there. So, yeah, ultimately a nice addition to our franchise there on the pitching side. All right, we're going to be going for a catching upgrade here and trading Hanshiro Sonata, who's one of our more expensive pitchers, obviously on the roster, to make room for some prospects. Anyways, we're also going to be giving up Jorge Miranda, Ronnie Ramirez, Yoani Brito, and Jorge Flores. So pretty much just a bunch of mediocre talent players for 75% retained Will Smith. He's got a good personality. The defense is a little subpar, but the bat is obviously quite good for the catching position. I'm not sure if Will Smith's actually going to be our answer here, or if we're going to be looking to swap him for an upgrade. But ultimately, Jonah Heim just has not been cutting it offensively, although I'm not too worried about the offensive catcher, so we might honestly be looking for a defensive option. I just know that overall the package from Heim, considering that we brought him in to be an offensive catcher and the contract we given him, or at least a capable offensive catcher, and the contract we gave him, I'm not too thrilled with the production we've got so far. But anyways, I'm hoping Will Smith will at least give us a passage to some kind of upgrade, and of course improve our fan interest in the process. It's gonna come at a price, but I have found our catcher of the future. It is going to be Baltimore Orioles' Adley Rutschman, who will bring a balance of offense and defense to the position. We'll be giving up as expected. Will Smith will also be throwing in Matt Brash and Landon Sims. Neither of those super big pieces. Matt Brash kind of is. He is definitely having a very nice season and a very nice player for us, but ultimately definitely worth it to upgrade to Rutschman. And of course, once again, improve our fan interest in a subsequent move. Since we don't have any need of Jonah Heim anymore, we're going to be dealing him to the Houston Astros in return for Jaden Murray, who is a relief prospect, starting pitching prospect, and we're also going to be giving up Brady Fiegel. Not any major players there, but ultimately just a slight improvement of the team and a replacement for Matt Brash on our relief staff. An interesting deal here with the Giants. We're going to be giving up a TCR product, Hanson Lopez catcher. I don't think he's going to reach his potential by any means. And Roman Anthony, who we acquired earlier, hoping he could develop into a solid outfielder, but he hasn't come along like I hoped. In return, we're going to be getting Evan Sweeting from the San Francisco Giants, a very nice starting pitching prospect with massive stuff. Liam Simon, another very similar pitcher, and Juan Leyva, who's a younger prospect, along with some cash. So a pretty nice pickup from the pitching prospect side of things, and we'll hope that those guys can continue to improve. All right, July is through, and ultimately, big news is that the Hayden Dirk experiment so far is going pretty well. He has been quite successful in his lone start to date at the major league level. And we've also got Adley Rutschman going, although he hasn't really been productive to date, so we're going to hope for a turnaround. We've got some positive developments on our team, but really it's just going to be getting through the stretch and hoping that we can win in the playoffs this year. Hopefully, because of my improved pitching depth, we will have a better shot in the event of injuries. We've also got pretty good hitting depth, all things considered, as well this year. So things are looking pretty good, and we're going to hope that we can finish the season strong here. We are through August, and we got our September call-ups now, and they are going to be in this month. We also have suffered an injury, the reliever we acquired from the Houston Astros. So we've called up, Logan Henderson here, who we got from the Brewers earlier this year as a more minor piece in the Hayden Dirk deal, but he is going to be a reliever for us, and he's looking pretty nice at the moment. We've also called up Brady House, who is going to be batting in our starting lineup, VL, as I have been very disappointed to date with the performance that we've received from Austin Wells. He's also going to be a bench bat and a general backup, so hopefully he can help add some thump to our lineup. We'll see you guys next in the playoffs, where we are pretty much guaranteed a spot at this point, and we can hopefully do better than last season when we got swept by the Rays. Okay, we are here at the playoffs, and we had a slight improvement over last season in terms of our win-loss record, although our offense as a whole was not as productive as I thought. Guys like Austin Wells, Nick Prateau, James Wood, Gunnar Henderson underperforming expectations coming into the season that we'll hopefully see improved upon next year. But O'Neill Cruz having a very big season. He was among the AL WAR leaders and very productive across the board. So we'll be hoping that more of our players can perform like that. Andrew Painter will be pitching the first game of the playoffs. Hayden Dirk is going to be lined up for our second. Yerlin Rodriguez is currently injured. A brilliant rookie season for Rodriguez, by the way. 14.5 K per nine. Good walk and home run rates to boot in only 13 games started. So we're going to be hoping for a bright future for him. Rodriguez, I believe, will be back by the second or third round of the playoffs, assuming we make it that far, but he is a little less than 2 weeks away from returning. We will not be seeing any of our other injured players in the playoffs this year, unfortunately, as Brian Abreu is also out with an injury, but overall, not too much damage to our team in terms of injuries for this year's playoffs, so we will be hoping for a good run here. All right, our first round opponent should be decided shortly as the wild card round comes to a close. And it looks like this is likely going to be the last simulation, as we'll be facing the Yankees in the second round of the playoffs here. First game will be against Nestor Cortes. Oh, excuse me. Actually, Will Warren will be the Yankees starter here. So he's not a bad starter, but we should be able to do better against him than they should against Andrew Painter. We do indeed win 7-1. Pablo Aliendo, I don't know why he's on the Major League injured list, as he's been in the minors all year. I guess he must have suffered a long-term injury and been put on the 60-day IL. But ultimately, nothing too major there. And we're going to see if we can win game 2 against Michael Kopech. All right, 8-4, very good. This is really unfortunate. Yerlin Rodriguez suffering a setback in his injury right when we need it the least. It seems like we've suffered very few injuries, but they're always crippling when we get them. All right, anyways, Keegan Akin, we're now in the bottom part of our rotation, so our odds of winning are going to slightly decrease. And Luis Severino will be the Yankees starting pitcher. He's been pretty successful this year, and he's a decent pitcher overall. I do think Akin is the better starter, but at this point it's more of a toss-up, and we do indeed get beaten 9-8. Very unfortunate defeat for us, but we still got 2 more games to eke out a victory. Wilmer Flores in this one. And a 5-1 loss, so it's going to be on the edge against Michael Kopech. We should have a very significant advantage in this one, though, with Andrew Painter going for us. So I will be very disappointed if we can't pull this one out. And oh my goodness, knocked out in the first round yet again by the New York Yankees. A 2-1 defeat as our offense completely flounders after a first inning run. Andrew Painter couldn't quite do enough, as 10 strikeouts over 7 innings just isn't quite enough. 1 home run allowed, that's all it took. The offense just lets us down once again in the playoffs. Brutal defeat. Brutal defeat. I will check back in with the international amateurs who we should be able to sign this year, but I believe that's going to be about it for this season. Hopefully next year we can finally break through, although obviously, once again, we'll have to hope that we don't have injuries and that our offense actually comes through in the playoffs. Very disappointing conclusion to the season. All right, we're here in free agency, and there really isn't much of note, but this international free agent, Yoshio Hayashi, is pretty interesting. He is a Joey Gallo type massive power, high I player. He's actually going to have some of the highest power in the league, potentially the highest power in the league when he comes over. So we will be attempting to sign him in the hopes that he can be the kind of big impact bat in the lineup that we really need at this point, although I would prefer the on base to the superpower, but I'll take what I can get here at this point. All right, we have completed the international amateur free agency, and we landed a handful of pretty good players here. Luis Montoya is going to be the premier hitter. This was actually a pretty pitcher-heavy class. He's got very nice outfield or corner outfield defensive abilities and a very, very good-looking bat potential. We will also land this is going to be a left fielder for sure, Gilberto Granados, another pretty well-rounded bat with a good personality. And our pitchers will begin with Juan Barbosa, who's a pretty good starting pitcher, although, again, the curveball changeup is very high-risk pitching profile, so good chance he doesn't turn out. We are also getting here Juan Rivera, a very good potential starting pitcher, 6 pitches, curveball being his premier pitch, high intelligence. He'll likely come immediately up, a left-handed pitcher. We are also going to land Ilari Dumani. He's probably my favorite pitcher from this group. Really dominant all around. He's 16. He could likely come up to the DSL immediately. He's got a 5-pitch mix, although once again the changeup, so a bit risky, but even without it, is still a really good profile, especially since that velocity likely has room to grow. Juan Ferreira, this should be the easy one. Juan Ferreira. Oh man. Probably the lowest caliber pitcher from this class, although good personality. He is 18, so unlikely to turn out, but given the price he came at, still decent value. And last up, we've got Edgar Gamino, another very nice pitching prospect. A lot of these pitchers with really good large arsenals, the changeups, lots of room to grow. So anyways, a good haul overall for this international amateur class. Hopefully, we get some of those guys to turn out. And in other news, we did successfully sign Yoshio Hayashi. He is going to be a big bat on this team for this next season. I will figure out how he slots into the lineup, but that is going to be it for this episode. On the next one, we will, of course, try to get past our struggles so far in the playoffs. It will be 2027, our second to last season. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you on the next one.